Welcome to the About Healing podcast, a place of love and understanding for all. A reminder that we are in this life together and never alone in our struggles. I'm your co-host, Sheree Buckman, medium and spiritual healer.
And I'm your other co-host, Katie Sass, intuitive energy healer. For more information on us, check out our personal websites listed in our About Healing podcast description.
Let's get our healing on.
Yeah.
Hey, Katie. Good morning.
Good morning, Sheree.
Hey, how are you feeling today?
I'm always waiting for this question first thing. So I actually feel really good now, but I wasn't feeling so great earlier today. I was getting a little bit frustrated with myself because I was finding myself in a place that I don't want to say I can often go to, but it seems like lately I have been going to, which is that feeling of just super overwhelmed and then panicking coming in and the fear and it just snowballs. It snowballs. It's funny because I was up before the family meditating, creating, doing my thing, and I was in a good place. And then just things start to shift quickly. Even as I say this, I'm like, the family was handling things pretty well. I guess I wasn't really. I mean, I was okay. I was keeping it in. I wasn't yelling or anything like that. But inside, thoughts were spinning out of control. But I have since worked myself out of that. Trying not to judge it, but a little frustrated that I went there again. I mean, that's life, right?
Absolutely. Here we are in these waves of life. And, again, these are struggles. These are our human life. This is what we're going through. And Katie, I love how you are willing to be so honest about this on the podcast and the things that you're going through too, because this is something that we all go through and we can connect with it, and knowing that, again, we're not alone in everything that we're going through. We are all connected. We are all experiencing these things. And so we like to be able to talk to everybody about how we get ourselves out of it, because I have seen too often through life experience in itself with clients and friends, family, all of it, where people can get stuck in those overwhelming situations and get really stuck for a long period of time. When something happens and it feels out of control, or, you didn't plan for this to happen and something is happening to you, throws everything out of whack and you feel out of control in that moment. And it's, how am I going to work this in? And how am I going to make this happen? And sometimes it's not about that. It's just adjusting to what is happening rather than trying to control it.
When we get in those places of overwhelm, at least for myself, my thoughts start going down these certain roads that are just ridiculous. They're places of lack, and I just start focusing in on the lack. And so I'll just tell you one little piece that was going on this morning. Both our cars are in the shop. And at first it was just the one, and then last night it became the other, trying to figure out how I'm going to go about getting my kids to school, picking them up, getting them to the appointments that they have, et cetera, et cetera. While that was going on, the things that were going through my head, what about tomorrow? What about the plans that we have tomorrow? And then I started thinking, and then Saturday night, I've got something going on. And then Sunday, I've got, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I going down this road of the next several days? Even within a short-ish amount of time, I've got a call first that someone was able to come out and help me that I asked for, right? Because we got to ask. So that was a big piece. And then the second piece is we got a call that the car will be ready later today. But here I was going off on these thoughts about what's going to happen tomorrow. What's going to happen the next day? And just feeling it too, and feeling that anxiety and stress just building. And it was just so unnecessary.
No, absolutely. And I know that because I've been there, I've done that. And the funny thing that I'm talking about past tense, because I still do go there, but I just remember it being more overwhelming past tense for me. in those moments where you feel really overwhelmed. And as an example, it was back when my children were really young. I had a toddler and I had a baby. Those were those moments where I would feel a lot of that overwhelm because I had all this responsibility. And just to kind of bring it home and what you were talking about, Katie, about being in your head, talking about the lack and things like that, because that's kind of what I want to bring up in this example for my own self, is I would be in those moments so exhausted, so overwhelmed. I'm out in public and I am trying to get through a door somewhere and I'm pushing a stroller and I've got a toddler like pulling at my arm, trying to keep him from like running away. And I'm already exhausted and can barely deal with anything else. And then I see people walking in and out of a door. No one's holding it open for me. And inside my head, I'm screaming. I'm like, why don't people see this? Why won't people help me? Oh my gosh, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me. Why don't people see this? And let me tell you, because inside everybody else's mind, they're going through their own stuff. No one is actually present to kind of see what's happening around them. And the truth of it is that when I go through those moments and I feel overwhelmed and I can't handle it and I can't get that door and I really need the help, I ask. Because in that moment, that's all I had to do was someone walking out, hey, could you hold that door for me? Because it's not their fault that they don't see me and see my struggles. It's not theirs to see, by the way. And you know what? They've got their own stuff going on in their head. They're thinking about all the errands they have to run. And so it's just a way to snap people out of it for a moment saying, hey, I need your help. And let me tell you, I have never had the experience, at least at this point, that if I ask someone to hold a door open for me, there's no one who has not done it. It wouldn't be a problem. People are so willing to help. Some people don't know how to help or when to help. And we're screaming in our heads sometimes when we feel that overwhelmed, because I know I've been there, especially back then. I'm screaming in my head for help. Why don't people see this? No matter what it is, I'm so stressed out. I just need someone to help me. But people don't read your mind. They're not intuitive, maybe like we are or anything else. I can see a lot in other people like, hey, I know you need help. What's going on? I can see it, but not everybody's in tune or out of their own head enough to see.
That's such a good point, Sheree, that people don't read our minds. And we know that, right? We know that people don't know exactly what we need until we tell them. And it's like, even though we know that, we have to be reminded of it. But there's also a flip side to it. And it has to do with receiving help. I know that I am guilty of it, thinking that I can do it all on my own. I've got this. I can handle it. And I even will have people offer to help me. Sometimes I need to say yes. I need to say yes and look for little ways. And it's so interesting because somebody offered to help me with something last night and I felt these twinges of guilt in me, which is ridiculous. I actually thought, well, why can't that person help me? I do these things all the time. Why is it a big deal for them to help? Like, release it, let it go. It's not a big deal because, as you know, it's important to give and receive. It's part of what keeps balance for everybody. Not only does it help you to receive and take the load off, but it also helps that person to be able to give.
And I love what you said about that, Katie, is talking about it's important to be able to receive also. It's one thing to be in the moment and be overwhelmed, and then someone does offer you help. It is so easy for some of us just to say, I got this. No, because in your mind, you're like, but if I let you do this, then I have to go back and fix it, or it's just going to make things worse, or whatever it is. Or it's like, you know what, but I can do it faster. Let me get this done, and this done. It actually all comes down to that control factor. We want to kind of keep that control because we know what it's like in there. And that's part of that kind of safety zone, that comfort zone. It's like hitting me in this moment too, that I have been going through this for a while because this was me several years ago in the overwhelm. And that was me too. My husband would be like, can I help you with this? It's like, no. And he could feel it. And I'm like, I got this. But yet he knows I'm stressed out and he's trying to help, but you're not going to do it the way I like it. That kind of a thing. I have learned now it's okay that things aren't perfect. That, you know what, if your husband or your partner or anybody else, it doesn't matter, whatever it is, that somebody offers to like fold your laundry for you, even though you like it a specific way and putting it away, what does it truly matter? It really doesn't. It's one of those things that someone helped you do something and it may be imperfect or not to the standards that you're used to in the moment. But you know what? That's one thing off your plate.
And you don't have to wait until you get so stressed out to ask for help too, because that's something I often do is, I can handle all these things. Yeah, I'm busy today, but I got it. And then all of a sudden, I don't got it. And I am not my best self. We'll just say that.
Yeah, you're starting to juggle so much. And at one point, one more thing comes in, and then, you drop all the balls and your kettle steams over, and you're just, now it's done. I've taken on way too much. This was me for a very long time. And I had to understand my limits of what I could do in learning my balance, what you just said, Katie, finding that balance in asking for help, but also receiving that help. And now I've learned, especially now that my children are getting older, like I love chores now, and they're at an age where this is helpful. This is good for them too, because it's teaching them these skills. And I don't overdo it on them. It's age appropriate. Mine are still pretty young. I have found that even though I'm super busy and it would take so much time to teach them how to do certain things, like I don't have the time, I just need this done. But if I take those couple of minutes and teach them, then slowly that builds up. And then guess what? Now things are smoother in the long run, because now I'm getting the help because I took the extra time, even if it was overwhelming for that moment, but I took the time and it smoothed things out for later. So I'm giving responsibility out to others, because that is one thing as a parent. This is just an example. It could be any role in your life you can take on responsibility. But this is just my example of where I felt it the most, was as a mom, as a parent, was I take on so much responsibility for the rest of the household, thinking that it was my job to do that. But it's not. It's a balanced effort. I have taught that to my kids too. And now they see when I've done so much. My son, who is usually oblivious to other things going on around him, it was only a week or so ago, he unloaded the dishwasher without me asking. This is huge
Wow.
for him to do this on his own. And he actually told me, he's like, Mom, it's so you didn't have to think about it.
Oh,
I was like, oh my gosh,
you
just spoke to my soul right there. It's like tears. I have tears in my eyes even thinking about it. It was just something so small, but I got to see like the end result, even though it had been a while and I've been teaching them this. And guess what? They are listening and they are growing. And it's not just our children, it's other people around us. We can give some of those responsibilities to others or let go of things that we feel that are just supposed to be high on the tier of things to get done. Let's drop it. You know what? Whether the clothes get folded and put away, oh my goodness, they're just clothes. You can still find them in the hamper if you have to that day. Wait till you have the time and space to do it. And you don't have to worry about it just because you wrote it on your list. Because I love lists. I love crossing things off my list. And I will even add things to my list just so I can cross off because I did it. That wasn't on there. I'm one of those. Sometimes I'll see my list and I'll have to erase what I put on there because there's no way I'm getting to that. And it's for my sanity. So sometimes we just have to save things for later.
Yeah, we got to set limits. I know we've mentioned it before too, not overscheduling yourself so that, of course, that you allow yourself that time for you, but also allow for creativity to flow in because you have to make time for you so that you are not stressed out and so that you don't get overwhelmed.
Absolutely. And I really want to talk more about the self-care thing because this is important. And I know we've mentioned it before, self-care, self-care, self-care. But when you are feeling constantly overwhelmed and you're feeling run into the ground, this is really important. You have to take the time out to take care of yourself because only when you have taken care of yourself, you have allowed yourself to give yourself a break and come into a new space is when you're ready to take on the world again and you can do more and you can help others. But you have to set yourself as a priority. You absolutely do. This is not selfish by any means. This is a necessity. We all have to. There is nothing wrong with it and nothing will ever be wrong with that. It's scheduling that time, no matter what it is for yourself. Maybe you are one, you like to be outside, you like to run, or you like to take a walk or a hike, or honestly, just sitting out and soaking up the sunshine. Whatever it is, go do that. Do you like to read a book and take a bath? Go spend an hour in the bathtub. Shopping. Do you just like going shopping alone? This is kind of one of my big ones. Going shopping alone. I don't care. I'll go grocery shopping alone. I enjoy it because I'm a people person and I'm going to talk to everybody while I'm doing it too. And I love finding people along the way and say, hey, can I help you with that? Because nobody else is. I like to be an observer now because it's the opposite of what we were talking about. Me being that overwhelmed mom needing someone to open that door. So now when I'm out, I'm paying attention to other people. And I can tell, like, you see someone struggling because they may be shorter and they're trying to grab something from the top shelf. And it's a busy store and people are just walking past them. And people might even be annoyed because they're waiting for this person to get out of their way so they can get by. But I always make sure to stop and say, hey, can I help you with that? And most of the time they're like, yes, thank you, because they can feel all of that. So let's also pay attention to those around us who might need that help too, because It's that balance. If you can give, the universe always turns it around and makes sure that you are getting it back also. So yeah, there are many times when, again, we get into that mode where you wake up in the morning and everything just starts going awry. Kind of like you, Katie, what started happening this morning. You had all of these things start falling apart. You found out you didn't have transportation to do everything you needed to do. But this is also very typical. Now we're in that mode. And Katie, you mentioned it too, where you're thinking about all the negatives, all the woe is me's, and all that kind of stuff, because I have been there too. And then we create that snowball effect. And like you said, you were talking about how, oh my gosh, but how am I going to get into the weekend and this and that? Well, first of all, we're not there yet. So you always have to pay attention. We are not there yet. Anything can happen between now. I mean, in any moment, you have to understand that the more you're projecting in that way, you're going to start collecting all of the negative space and all of those other things that, like, oh my gosh, but then this could happen and then this can happen. Well, and then things start breaking apart. Katie, you had a different experience today.
Yeah, well, and what I was going to say too is it's about stopping and just being in that present moment and just slowing it down and focusing in on what is most important now, and then letting all the rest just fall away, sending it up to the light to be dealt with in the meantime, and just realizing that all you have to do is get through this moment, get through this one thing, and asking too. I like to ask for guidance on how to get through this. Send me who can help me through this. That's just a little something I like to do on the side. In my situation too, I know that I can't carry that energy. I don't want to carry that energy throughout the day. It's up to me to take responsibility for my overwhelm and pull it back. So I stopped and I just took some breath and I made sure that I was in my heart instead of up in my head, because when you get to that place of overwhelm and you start having all these thoughts going in a direction you don't want it to go in, it's just about letting it go, breathing into your heart and moving forward. And then I also had some energy to release. And so I went outside. I'm like, okay, it's beautiful out. I'm going to go outside. And I just noticed a shift immediately, already a shift when I went outside, felt into nature, took those breaths, and also in those moments ask spirit to bring me the help that I need in these situations, and seeing what I want instead of going to the fears and the lack and the worry. And then I came inside and then I put on a rockin' song and I danced my ass off, and I just let it go. And I called in my inner 22-year-old and just remembered how fun she is. And I'm like, oh yeah, let's make this day fun. Let's replace all of that other stuff and call in the fun. And all of that helped me to shift. And then my last little piece to help really shift my energy, I went and drew an oracle card, and my favorite card came up. And by the way, I didn't just draw this for me. I drew this for everybody on the call, was the energy I put out. And my favorite card came through with Goddess Laxmi of bright future, and to stop worrying. Everything is going to be fine.
What a perfect card in that moment too. And honestly, what a great message always to remember that we are all going to be fine. We get into this big overwhelm. And again, we just get into this mode where we create things that are bigger and bigger. It's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through the day? Oh my goodness, like this is happening and this is happening. And then we do, again, that snowball effect. And it's bringing yourself down and being present. That brings me into one other piece to this that I want to talk about, is when we're getting into those moments and you're feeling the overwhelm and you're taking on so much, you just don't know what to do or where to go or where to start, is taking responsibility for your thought process, understanding where you're at. I think we get to these places where, again, you get to those negative spaces. Like Katie, you talk about the lack. You're into the lack. Like, I don't have enough help. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money to fix things. I don't have. It's positive to get to a space of understanding where you're at. And it's okay. Again, we put that harsh judgment like, oh, I keep putting myself in this place and oh my goodness, it just keeps happening. I keep getting overwhelmed. And when I talk about taking responsibility, it's not just about your thoughts, but it's also being responsible for everything that's going on. It's nobody else's fault that you feel the overwhelm. It's nobody else's fault that you've taken so much on. And that's all part of it too, is that we need to start breaking it all down and start figuring it out. Each instance that you're feeling overwhelmed on, For instance, Katie, I just want to use you as an example. This morning, you didn't have cars. You didn't have transportation this morning. And that's really overwhelming when you have a family and everyone needs to get somewhere. You don't have the other transportation or anybody near to assist you in that moment. But when you're in a situation like that, it's stopping for a minute. It's taking those deep breaths. And I love also, Katie, you said that you went outside. That's always one of my things I love to do is going outside, especially when it's nice out, because it's grounding. It's just something that naturally makes you feel good. It always interacts with our energy. It's just taking those deep breaths, slowing down, and it helps balance you out so you can think straight again. But now it is, okay, well, what are my options and what can I do? We need to get to a place where you can kind of get back into that rational thinking rather than irrational. There's always something, whether it is you can call in a family or friend. I don't know if you have support systems or not. And even if you don't have a support system, there are other means. There's always public transportation. No one really wants to hear that. It's never a fun one. These are all if you need to go somewhere. Uber, we have Uber these days, or whatever version or company you use, there is that. It's a very popular thing. Or it's rescheduling your stuff. What is so important that you have to do today? Or can it be moved?
Well, and you mentioned something earlier that's coming up for me in this moment is about letting go of control and to stop judging it. Like you said, maybe I meant to have to cancel my appointments. Maybe something else needs to come in for my day that is more important, or that by going to this appointment, the best outcome isn't going to occur. So it's also stepping back and letting go of what needs to come in and trusting it and going with it.
And Katie, just to piggyback on what you just said too, maybe you were supposed to go to that one appointment and maybe another day would have been better. But also, if you're in that overwhelm and you're really getting in that really stressful space and all of this is happening to you, maybe it's a blessing in disguise where it just gave you a day to do nothing. You were supposed to cancel everything and maybe you were just supposed to have a mental health day. You never know. You're a busy family and all of a sudden something happens and throws it off, whether it happens to you as a family, whether it happens to you individually, so on and so forth, can you see the other side of the coin? There's so much negativity that comes or the stress that we feel is just because it did. We lost that control. We had all of our ducks in a row. Guess what? Our ducks are never always in a row. Everything always changes. The universe always throws something out there. And I say the universe, it could be whatever. I don't care if you use that word or not. Something comes in and throws a wrench that just changes everything. But let's be ready for that. And that's okay. What can I see? How can this be a positive? For me, it's like, man, guess what? I don't have to run those errands today and we're going to do something else. We're just going to reschedule.
Yeah. Pulling yourself out of that lack and focusing on the gratitude and the positive outlook on what's going on.
Now, I'm always being told that, gosh, Sheree, why are you so positive? Or how are you so positive? I'm not always so positive. I have my moments. However, yes, I am a very positive person because you know what? It's one of these things where I can try to find the positivity in something and I'm also trying to share that positivity. I want it to rub off. I want that energy to rub off. And I want you to feel what it is like, where if you can pull yourself out of that dark, negative space or that stress or whatever's going on and knowing, plus, by the way, I am one who I do struggle with control. I'm always working on that. It's one of mine. But I find myself stressed out for very short bursts now, rather than taking it on for days. And I've been in those spaces in my past where something happens and I take on that stress for days. And I'm so stressed out and it's eating at me. And not only eating, I am eating tons because I'm a stress eater or whatever it may be. And then I have all these other things that happen. However, I have learned now to stop and be present in the moment. Let's dissect it. I love that word dissect. And it's just one of those things. Let's pull it apart. Let's peel the pieces down. What do I have to worry about? Where can we start? What can we do? And what can I give to somebody else to help me? Because I will tell you, those who I talk to, especially like my husband, he's fantastic at that. And honestly, we have this great energy now where I don't even have to say anything. He knows my energy more than anybody. And no, he is not into everything that I do or understands it. He supports me, but he's like, what's wrong? What can I do? I got this. Kind of like, even at night, he tells I'm so drained and he's like, I got the kids tonight. Heck yeah, I'll put my feet up. But maybe you don't have someone who is just as intuitive or just knows you that well, but you have to speak it. You have to say it. And honestly, that is what started getting to the place that we are now. I had to start talking, and that's where it was. There is no way I realized I could not be mad at him for not knowing what I needed. He was not a mind reader.
Yeah. And the same goes too. I mean, for people who are doing this on their own, that don't have a partner at that moment to turn to. If you've got kids and they're bringing on the stress, explain to them what's going on, that you got to step back and teach them how to manage their energy and how to step back when things start getting intense, instead of having them see you running around like a crazy person, which I have definitely been there before. And Sheree, I appreciate you saying too that this kind of happens less and less for you, that you're not holding on to it for so long. Because hearing you say that also makes me think of how much I have grown in my process and where I was a couple years ago. And I'm still working on it, but at least I wasn't holding on to it. I'm not holding on to it anymore for a long time. I'm not demonstrating to my kids that I have to do everything, that this is what life looks like, that life is stressful. And I don't show that side as much anymore. And when I do, I catch myself and I teach them through doing it myself.
Katie, I am so glad you brought up that example with your kids. And I adore what you just said, especially about talking to your kids. You know, it's important that we are talking to our kids about how we are feeling, and that when we get into these stressful places, we get really short, we get really frustrated, and the kids and people around us they think that it's their fault, or they don't know what's going on. And by the way, they take that in very differently. And then they're at school, or whomever they're around, they get in stressful situations, and they are going to mimic the way that they see you deal with it, by the way. And so to sit down with them and to tell them, hey, I am going through something. Mommy's going through something. Daddy's going through something. You know, whether you're a sibling, you're a grandparent, whoever you are, it is okay to sit down and say, I am trying to release some of this stuff that I'm going through. It is not your fault. If I'm getting too harsh, I will take a minute, or whatever it is, taking responsibility of what you're putting out, so that especially the little ones around you, so they don't believe it's on them or it's because of them. And truthfully, I love this. Kids are our greatest examples and teachers about not sweating the small stuff. They are so free, you know, and it's one of those things that, you know, we may teach kids how to survive in life, but kids teach us how to live. Those little ones, I'm telling you, it's all the little ones. It's before that we are teaching them and putting in all the stresses. Like, I love that you said you were talking about the stresses of life. These children, they absorb, and we're teaching them everything. And this is how they go out into the world, is by seeing how we deal with the overwhelm, with the stress, with the highs and the lows and everything. And this is how they're going to deal with it. So if you are one who you hold everything in and you have these outbursts, and you keep wondering why your child keeps having some of these outbursts, or you get really stressed and you wind up cursing, or whatever it may be, however you deal with it, and you start seeing some of these actions in your children, it's one of those ways to go back. Again, key word I have here is responsibility, is taking the responsibility, because a lot of them take on how you deal with it, and they're going to deal with it the same way. So that old saying of parents, how they've always said, do as I say, not as I do. That means nothing to a child, because they learn by watching. And when you think they're not watching, they're still watching. When they think you can't hear, or when you think they can't hear, they hear. And it always shows you as we go throughout our lifetime in this, you know, if you want to know how to just let it go and be happy and live, watch these little ones. They fall down, they get scraped, they cry for a minute. We love on them, we give them a hug, kiss their boo-boo, give them a Band-Aid. It's always magic Band-Aids in my house. Doesn't matter. It's a bruise, Band-Aid, they're fine. And then they're out and nothing ever happened. They let it go. And it's like, bam, they're gone, done and playing again. And it's a beautiful thing. And maybe we should look at that. How can we let go of all that small stuff? The small stuff that, you know what, again, in 5 years, I'm not going to remember being stressed out over not getting things done. We're going to go forward and we're going to remember and do the fun things. And you can turn your day around at any moment. And it is a choice, any moment. Katie, I love your way of turning things around. And if anybody has not heard Katie talk about how she turns around her day when she gets in these low places with herself, Katie, are you open to sharing that?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's what I do to help lift my vibration, pull myself up. And today I did it while I was dancing too, and just telling myself, like, I am awesome. I am amazing. I can do this. You got this. You're a badass. Go, girl. All of these things that whatever's coming to me, whatever boosts me up. And then I'm always lift my vibration, lift my energy. I'm happy.
Yeah.
And it works. It does. It works.
And I
It
love it
works.
every time you tell me this. You're like, I did this today. And you tell me what you told yourself. And I'm like, yes, I love it because I get all rooting for you. I'm like, yeah, I feel it. It feels like I'm in a church and feel it, raising my hands. I feel it. I feel it. And it is. And
Yeah.
music is one thing that always reaches the soul. Again, there's always something you can do to change it. It is a choice. Let it go and decide.
Take
It is.
responsibility.
Take responsibility on what you're taking on, what you're not allowing others to assist with. Because again, you can ask for help and you can receive and you can give. You just have to figure out your limits. Where are your limits? Find your limits and try to stick with them. And that's a process, by the way. I don't expect me saying this. You're like, well, I don't even know what my limits are. You may not, but it is a process and you'll start recognizing it now when you want to start setting limits for yourself. Now you'll start recognizing where those are. Oh, this is a limit because now I'm feeling over the edge or I feel I've taken on too much. So this is where I need to stop and take a break, where I'm going to stop saying yes to everything that comes into my life, activities or appointments or whatever it is. And I'm going to start saying, no, I need time, not right now, whatever it is. Find your limits and start setting and keeping those boundaries for yourself, for your own well-being and self-care.
Yeah. All right. So, homework this week. When you find yourself in those overwhelmed moments, I want you to just take a second. If you need to run outside, if you can be by yourself just for a moment, or run in the bathroom or in your bedroom, and just slow down. Bring all that mind chatter, send all that mind chatter up. Make sure you're in your heart, and then focus in on what really matters, where you're at. Let's just focus in on this moment and what's going on, just this moment, and let all the rest fall away.
And I love that, Katie. And another technique too is when you're in the overwhelm that I teach, we talked about the grounding, is like you said, and you can send it up and away. But one of the other focuses I teach is pushing it down. You want it to see it in your mind. And even if you need to take your hand like floating above, an inch in front of your face, is pushing that hand down and see it almost in your mind's eye or imagination, however you want to see it. Close your eyes and push all that stress and chatter. Push it, push it, push it until you can just almost feel it go into the ground and outside of your body. It's just one of those other techniques. Stress, this is great for stress too. It's a way to kind of help release it. If you can't just turn it off or let it go, see if you can work yourself with that. It's just one of those things to release and bring yourself to the present.
And know that all of that negative energy that you do move into the earth is transmuted to love and light.
It is. Oh, and to leave everybody with this, and I wanted to put this out there. So Katie, I love this. And Katie gave the example earlier about her very stressful morning. And one of her things that did happen this morning is she didn't have either vehicle. They decided not to work at the same time. Super unfortunate for her. She changed her mindset. She did all of her beautiful things. And guess what? You got a call today about one of your cars, didn't you?
Yes, it will be ready soon.
Exactly. So she was in this space where it wasn't going to be ready for a long time. She got the call not even that long after you were going through this whole process, and bam, she found out it was all going to be fine and it's all coming back. So I just wanted to put that out there. See, when you change some of that process and putting that out there, you never know what's going to happen or come back. You don't. You never know. And we need to allow whatever may happen.
Exactly. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
With much gratitude, thank you for tuning in. You can find us at Pandora, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, or any of your favorite places to find podcasts.
Remember to subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and to share any comments, or if you have any questions, please email us at abouthealingpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another amazing episode. Until then, be kind to yourself.